Hi, it's Patrick Hutzel from intensivcarehotline.com, where we instantly improve the lives for families of critically ill patients in intensive care so that you can make informed decisions, have peace of mind, real power, real control, and so that you can influence decision making fast, even if you're not a doctor or a nurse in intensive care. This is another episode of Your Questions Answered, and in last week's episode I featured another case study, and the case study last week was my brother is in intensive care after stroke and cardiac arrest. He's off the ventilator now. Will he get out of ICU alive? You can check out last week's case study by clicking on the link below this video. In this week's episode of Your Questions Answered, I want to follow up from last week's case study, and Linda, one of my clients, provides some feedback about the consulting and counseling sessions that she had with me over the phone. So this week, the title of Your Questions Answered episode is My Brother is in intensive care after stroke and cardiac arrest. He's off the ventilator now. Will he get out of ICU alive? And today's the follow-up and the testimonial from Linda. So, Linda writes, Salutations to you, Patrick. I have been meaning to get back to you to let you know that our consultation sessions were very effective. However, I'm still in the process of getting my brother Peter discharged out of the hospital in Los Angeles because you were right about the fact that they were going to put a tracheostomy and a PEG feeding tube regardless. Fortunately, my brother's mind is stronger than his matter as in his body and strength. So he managed to elude being one of the 10% that never leave intensive care or higher level days of intensive care. It came so close that I felt like the doctor who was in charge of Peter was literally running away from us, or me, as I caught him in the hall for the 2 days that he avoided me in order to have a conversation with my brother privately while my brother Peter was cognizant. And the funny thing was that any time that the doctor did come or was close to coming to conduct the confidential consult with my brother, he would somehow ask to be given medication for that day, etc., and really wasn't as clear and confident as that he needed to be, just specify what he wanted, that he wanted no life support sustaining treatment whatsoever, instead of what was written on the original power of attorney, which said no external life support, but whatever is necessary for food, etc. Thankfully, we have 2 uncles that are lawyers, so they were able to weigh in on this, and with my dad being quite influential, Peter has managed to be transferred to intermediate ICU, which is close to baseline, and they're working on his transfer. His physical therapy, which is where he's at right now and must complete within this healthcare system before a total discharge can happen. I believe my brother has been going through this scenario before, and by the time that I introduced either it's going to be here in the medical ICU and the doctors, I've already set to be discharge date to begin the tracheostomy and PEG feeding tube. My brother has incredible amount of willpower, and we believe that what happened by him bouncing back and forth between intermediate ICU to medical ICU, what does it? They weren't understanding that my brother, his mind is much stronger than his matter, which was prompting him to crash because he was just very weak of the procedure for the long peel, and they also ended up doing an unnecessary procedure without my consent that is going to have him walk and on crutches as well when he finally receives his transfer to complete the rest of his physiotherapy at a better, closer facility, but still within the healthcare system where we live. I have to say that I really begin to understand that you really know what you're doing and how to advise people. My brother is with Medicare, and it pays 100% as long as he remains in ICU or higher, more advanced level of care, meaning ICU or above. You knew what you were talking about as far as the type of income that they generate for the lower income hospitals was my brother is Medicare, and it pays 100% as long as he remains in ICU or any critical level above that. Now I understand that my brother was just transferred to intermediate care just yesterday, so I've been trying to really communicate to them not to push his physical therapy too hard or the land back on death row. And finally, Peter has agreed to transfer after he is discharged, which they tell me they're working on, because I think they want this pain in the ass, that meaning me and my brother, to go away. And I do know that on Saturday it was only one doctor for 293 beds, and they are supposedly a teaching facility. This is a great thing, but two young kids who are at least half my age, if not less, almost gave my brother enough morphine to kill him. And that's when all of your information started to really make sense. Like I said, I've been trying to get back to you. There is more to be said, but this is an update and I'm not done yet, so I must make this short, but the story is not finished. It does look though as if Peter will be out of that facility and out of ICU soon, and I often have to roll it into a nicer facility while he does physical therapy and then has agreed to a hospice. If it all falls into place like you've helped me and advised me, I'm going to have to write you the most amazing testimonial, and I hope that you will use it. In the meantime, just as I say, prayers or whatever that you do in order to send good thoughts, laughing out loud. I will be in touch and I appreciate you contacting me for a follow-up. You seem to truly care, and in times of crisis for family members and patients, like your presence was very, very comforting, and our counseling and consulting sessions were a big eye-opener. I will be getting back to you in due course to finish up the story, but it's still in transition, so I must send you my excuses. So, sincere regards from Linda. And then, after Linda sent that email, she sends the next email with the next update, and she says, "Hi Patrick, within an hour since I replied to you, I have gotten even more encouraging news from the hospital. The coordinator who is working on the transfer to get them out of the hospital and closer to a facility where we live just called me back to ask me what type of dialysis center my brother was going to before he was admitted, and she even took my zip code to tie it into the closest hospital facility to my home. I'm not jumping the gun yet, but it looks like he's real close to baseline and out the door to at the last 8 healthcare systems facility that I know because I've been there. It's not a teaching facility and it seems much more competent even though. This will also allow me to keep a better eye on Peter's physical therapy so that they don't forget that his mind is stronger than his matter and perform this without fault, since it's quite easy as long as they are willing to treat him as a human and not as a cash cow. Lastly, when I told you they performed an unnecessary procedure without my consent between the first time he had a code blue, and before the second time, I was rubbing his feet, trying to soothe him, and I found a small bump in the back of his right Achilles heel. He indicated that when I rubbed the area, it was painful. I have had 3 foot surgeries bilateral for bone deterioration issues that have nothing to do but with genetics and being into gymnastics when I was younger. Peter is also very athletic, but his feet, ironically, are in a much better shape than mine. So being the wonderful caregiver, little sister I am, I innocently point this out to one of his nurses. Apparently, after I left, they took a good look at it, pressed on it really hard, he was already in pain anyway, and decided to whip out their scalpels and remove this small bump. Because it was in the area of the tendons of the Achilles heel area, he will now have to use the crutches in order to do physical therapy duties, and it was, and my auspicious opinion, and yes, suspicious opinion, that they performed this just to generate a little more time and a little more money, if you know what I mean. And yes, I do know what you mean by that, because I talk about it all the time. Anyway, I've got to run, and the update, and it came so quickly after I had sent you my first reply. Thank you again for following up. Hope to hear from you whenever it's convenient for you. You have my sincerest gratitude, and I assure you that after this chapter has started to close and stabilized, that hopefully I'm going to write a glowing testimonial about how compassionate you are and how effective our one-on-one phone, Skype and counseling and consulting sessions were. It was an eye-opener, to say at the least. More to come from Linda. So thanks, Linda, for your feedback, and also thanks for the testimonial. So, and for you who's watching this video, you may want to ask yourself, how can you become the best advocate for your critically ill loved one, make informed decisions, get peace of mind, control, power, and influence quickly whilst your loved one is critically ill in intensive care? You get to that all-important feeling of making informed decisions, get peace of mind, control, power, and influence when you download your free instant impact report now by entering your email below. In your free instant impact report, you learn quickly how to make informed decisions, get peace of mind, real power, and real control, and how you can influence decision-making fast whilst your loved one is critically ill in intensive care. Your free instant impact report gives you in-depth insight that you must know whilst your loved one is critically ill or is even dying in intensive care. Sign up and download your free instant impact report now by entering your email below. In your free instant impact report, you learn how to speak the secret intensive care language so that the doctors and the nurses know straight away that you are an insider and that you know and understand what's really happening in intensive care. In your free report, you will also discover how to ask the doctors and the nurses the right questions, discover the many competing interests in intensive care, and how your critically ill loved one's treatment may depend on those competing interests, how to eliminate fear, frustration, stress, struggle, and vulnerability, even if your loved one is dying. You get 5 mind-blowing tips and strategies helping you to get on the right path to making informed decisions, get peace of mind, control, power, and influence in your situation. You'll get real-world examples that you can easily adapt to your and your critically ill loved one's situation. How to stop being intimidated by the intensive care team and how you will be seen as equals. You'll get crucial behind-the-scenes insight so that you know and understand what's really happening in intensive care, and how you need to manage doctors and nurses in intensive care, and it's not what you think. Thank you for tuning into this week's Your Questions Answered episode, and I'll see you again next week in another update. Make sure you also check out our blog section for more tips and strategies, or simply send me an email to support@intensivecarehotline.com with your questions. Or you can call me, find international phone numbers on our contacts tab. Also, check out our ebook section where you get more ebooks, videos, and audio recordings, and where you can also get one-on-one counseling and consulting with me via Skype, over the phone, or via email by clicking on the products tab. This is Patrick Hutzel from intensivecarehotline.com, and I'll see you again next week in another update.